Right, evening everyone, welcome to tonight's edition of Table Talk. I'm here with Pete and Dan. Pete from Southern Districts, Dan from Georges River. We're talking all things development, boys. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good, thanks, mate.
Let's start with you, Pete. We're talking about development tonight. But firstly, I want to touch on your involvement in the sport. Take us through how you joined.
How I joined the sport? Yeah, when I was 16 years old, actually. Next door neighbour played softball out at the old East Hills, which is Georges River now. And they were short of players in the men's team. He said, come on, have along and come and play. So that's how I got started, basically.
Yourself, Dan?
Children getting involved to start with. My son started when he was 5 years old. So that was 8 years ago now. I watched from the sidelines for 1 year. I'd previously coached some baseball and played baseball my whole life until I was 23 years old. I stood there and watched something happening as coaching and I couldn't handle it anymore, so I was put my hand up to coach next year, and that's how I got involved, and then step by step got more involved in this at the association level and rep coaching level and all those sorts of things as we went along and developing kids. So my passion is definitely developing the younger ones for the future of the sport, as much as learning as much as I can off the more experienced guys like the man next to me.
Very nice. Well, both of you hold key roles in your association, like Pete, you're development officer for Southern Districts.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, you're the president of your association, but both of you have key roles to play in terms of development initiatives within your association. And I think the obvious one that we'll cover first is obviously what Georges River went through with regards to Campbelltown last season.
Yep.
In the setting up of the Southern Softball League.
Yep.
Apologise if I got that wrong. But can you just talk us through how you got that going and what it actually meant for both your associations?
Yeah, so a chance phone call between myself and Jamie Barrington over a lunch at his office. We discussed the opportunities of playing an intermixed comp, whether we played the total comp together, whether we played once a fortnight, once a month, etc. Came down with some very brief ideas and we went back to our boards and spoke about it. Got some buy-in from the committee, as you need to do, as we don't run everything personally. Explain the situation on how great it would have been to have, or how good it would be to have multiple team comps rather than just 3 or 4 or 5 team comps, having 10 team competition. That spread into under 16s, where we thought there would be a really good market, because we both agreed that we were losing players from that 14-year age group and up. So I suggested at that time playing under 16s under lights on a Friday night and see what buy-in we would get from other associations. Southern District sent over a side, Campbelltown sent over a side. We had 4 sides at River, which ended up being a 6-team competition. Really competitive softball, really fun, different environment, different set of rules. It was very spur of the moment thing. It was a lot of trial and error along the way, but definitely successful. And then that spread into us going to Campbelltown, us and Campbelltown playing intermixed competition once a month as we went along, once every 4 weeks. So they would come to us, we would play on our diamonds, then 3 weeks of our own competitions, and then we'd go over there and play on their diamonds for a weekend. We did that 4 times throughout the season. Great fun, was well received, got some really good feedback from our members and from the Campbelltown members. And unfortunately, due to the shortened season issue, we won't be able to do it, but hopefully we'll be able to do that again in the future. So
is it safe to say then, because I know that some associations might be hesitant on doing stuff like that, obviously because with players coming in and out of associations or going out to rival associations as such. What would you say to those associations who are hesitant to do something like that?
I think there's definitely, from my experience of coming into the sport in the last 8 years, there's definitely a stigma there that the associations want to steal other associations' players, or we'll lose them, or they don't play the way we play, etc. I think you've got to give it a go and see what it's like, and be very open about that, and accepting of, we play different modified rules in our under 12s, for example, to what Campbelltown do. So we played their rules when we went there, they played our rules, we all accepted that, and Campbelltown learned from our rules and we learned from theirs. It's something that I think that if more associations get involved in inter-association competition, you will definitely grow the interest in the sport a lot more. Because if I use baseball as an example, when I was growing up in Bankstown area, there used to be just the Bankstown competition. That doesn't exist anymore. There's East Hills baseball and there's other teams, Moorebank and stuff like that now play all in one association intermixed, which has become Cronulla Association, right? Which then in turn turns into being a stronger, that Cronulla side, for example, has gone to nationals and been successful in the last 4 or 5 years. So if I use that as an example, I think, and I'm not talking about definitely bringing New South Wales all together under one banner, but in association-wise, but we're 10 kilometres apart. I'm 10 kilometres apart from Campbelltown. There's Sutherland another 15 kilometres down the road. We're almost from the same pool of players. So it kind of makes sense to maybe in the future look at doing something like that where we would play. And I think 16's Friday night kind of proved that.
Yeah, and I think you're right in that respect as well, because I think a lot of associations now have got, like, say for instance, I take A-grade men's for instance. You've got probably 2 teams in association, and every one they're any good. So you're basically playing against one good side every 4, 5, 6 weeks. Where if you had that inter-competition between all the associations, then you've got, you know, a decent comp where you've got like a state league environment in a sense. It's not a state league, but it's sort of in a sense.
Agree.
And then, you, like you say, maybe one week at Jules River, next week at Southern District, next week at Campbelltown, next week at Penrith, whatever. So I think definitely it's the way of the future.
I think the more that you probably see that kind of grow, I mean, like you said, you've got 4 associations with relatively close proximity to each other. It might open up, you know, over a couple of years' time where you don't have to travel to just that one venue every single week. You've got enough teams to cover that whole area where you've got multiple games being played at every association.
That's right.
And obviously that's the end game to something like that. But I mean, is that something that would ultimately help our sport?
I think so. We have a large number of diamonds where we are, so do you. We can, so does Campbelltown, so does Sutherland if they need to. You can handle a large amount of games at once. So I think the junior teams that we have in those associations, I'll talk juniors just for a second. I think you could almost go, okay, week 1 we're there, week 2 we're there, week 3, so everyone gets a nice bite of the cherry. You're going to get a little bit of probably pushback in the sense of councils thinking, oh, you're not using the diamonds, etc. But I think if you get buy-in from the council saying, well, look, I've got 600 kids down here every 3rd weekend, and then it looks great, like a state championship almost every week. And in my eyes, that's only going to increase participation and increase skill level of probably what we saw 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. It increases skill level in a sense too, because you'll have the elite players or the better players playing against the better kids, and then the weaker kids won't drop out because they're not getting smashed every week. Correct. You know, they're playing in their own relatively, how would you say, how they can play. You know, they're not elite, but they're not as good. So, you know, they're playing with their own sort of skill level. That's the word I'm looking for. And then that'll keep them in the sport rather than go, look, I'm not good at this, I'm getting smashed every week, I can't hit a ball, I can't catch a ball. So I reckon it'll keep kids in, and it'll keep the older people in as well, to be honest. You know, you get a lot of people around about 17, 18, 19, hey, I can't compete at this A grade level, but hey, B grade's fun. You know what I mean? And that way, that would keep a lot of, you know, kids in the sport, and older people as well. Like, you know, you might end up with, you could end up with like an over 35s comp in all this too. Not just the men's level, like it might just, in women's, it might be over 35s as well. Like I know they do that at Cumberland, and the comp goes pretty well there. Masters seems to be growing all the time in respect, like, you know, Masters comp's played every like 2 months or so. It might be something that's paid weekly. You know?
And I guess the exposure to the sport as well from a new person walking in there, like walking past the venue one day thinking, okay, what's going on there? See more than just the usual colours, for example, that they would normally see on their morning walk. But they could be seeing, you know, the red and black, you know, in terms of Campbelltown, or the green and gold in terms of Southern District, but obviously with their clubs. And I guess exposure is one thing that our sport desperately needs. You know, because, you know, our numbers have fallen, and that's just the reality of what, you know, the situation that we're in. But I think the opportunity for us to grow is obviously in us working together more as a collective from a sport point of view, and not an association.
Nothing breaks my heart more than hearing or seeing it 8-10 years ago, where you couldn't get a parking spot at George River, you had to park halfway down Henry Lawson Drive. And now we've got free diamonds on a Saturday morning because we've had such a large drop in participation. I've tried a number of different things to try and solve that issue or try and resolve that issue. Friday night winter comp development thing where you bring kids that are coming out of T-ball into pitch ball, but spreading the skill level amongst the team, so they're they're not necessarily playing for a club, they're playing for a colour for that weekend, so it might, or that week, so red. So you've got, okay, one kid puts their hand up, goes, I want to pitch, or one kid, I want to catch.
Yeah.
So you can develop those kids, but they go in that team and pitch that week, so they're pitching week in, week out, rather than going, oh, that kid's in my club and he's better than me and he gets thrown in more than what I do, or she gets thrown in more than what I do. That's something else that's kind of something I think we need to look at in that sense. Down at River, there's a block, and it's probably no secret that from our under 16s to our under 23 ladies, we have nothing there in the way of skill. But then you look at our over 35s, and we're full of ex-Olympian players. Yeah. So, and probably below our under 16s now, we're really starting to. We highlighted that as an issue probably 3-4 years ago, and with the help of the likes of Colleen Franks, for example, really focused on the girls, and now got that participation level back in and gave them something to look forward to. And they look up to the players that are now starting to make New South Wales squads, etc. And they want to be like those players.
And I think even we can see that even from a district's point of view is that a lot of those teams who would normally be first registered to the likes of River are travelling over to districts on a Saturday afternoon to play in their competition, and it's something that obviously associations are happy to kind of accept as a part of their competition. But do you see that as being an avenue to our sport growing more, or just that access to multiple competitions?
Yeah, I think so. I know, like coming from the Penrith Association before, like there's a lot of Penrith players that play in the Cumberland Comp as well, whether it's on a Friday night with the men's team or mixed on a Saturday as well. So there is a lot of cross pollination in a sense, and I suppose in the women's side as well. North Shore in the winter time, that's probably where they're unique, having just that winter comp. They get a lot of girls, and women play up there in that winter comp too. So, look, I think it can only benefit the sport by doing it. I think it's made the sport more friendly, to be honest. I remember back, I'm going back to, mid to late 80s, there was a lot of rivalry between associations because every association was pretty packed. Like, East Hill was like, it was truckloads of people playing. So you didn't play anywhere else because you had your comp to play in.
You had 100 people at a rep trial.
Yeah, exactly right. 100%. Even trial for New South Wales, you'd have 60, 80 people you're up against. That's how it was back then. But now I think it's got more friendlier in a sense because people are cross pollinating in a sense with different associations. So that can only benefit the sport as well because hey, look, if everyone's getting it on and everyone's friendly, it's the way to go.
At a senior level, we held our winter competition this year for men and women for the first time in a while. Like I threw that out at a meeting once and went and got sort of like, oh, you want to have the women as well as the men? Yeah, of course. Why not? We've got enough diamonds and let's see what happens. And we threw it out there and we got a lot of buy-in for women wanting to play. And that in turn got your 14 and 15-year-old younger women. Oh, I can go and play with these open ladies and your Charlie or seniors of the world, etc. And be on the bench with those kids.
Or even play with mum.
Or play with mum, exactly. And give them that opportunity. So those competitions need to be explored more, I think. I also think that we need to look at exploring competitions where you have... I was involved a few years ago with the Under 15 Development League side of things. Where you go and play a 4-week comp, if you like, but it's at different grounds, maybe outside your typical competition, where you can't form like a super league, if you like, or a teams where, okay, there might be crossover of club teams where they play under a different club's banner or an association's banner, for example, but it's not necessarily a rep competition per se.
It's a development league.
That's right, and you could have A grade of that and B grade of that based on, who they have in the side, based on whether they've been in New South Wales squads before, etc. I think you'll get, doing something like that, you might find that you'll get the same sex teams growing a little bit more and not having to have them intermix so much at that younger level. Like, I'd like to see that happen. I don't know if that's something that can happen in the near future, but...
look, it's something you've got to work on for the next 5 to 10 years in the sport, in a sense. I don't think we're rock bottom in the sport. We're not the only sport. Like, you talk to football, you talk to cricket, you talk to baseball, we're all in the same boat. The new computer age and the gaming age has definitely kept the kids away. So hopefully it'll turn around. I believe in revolutions and that sort of stuff. So hopefully it'll turn around now and get more kids in and more kids out. Hopefully everyone's been locked down for the last year and a half and want to get out of the house now rather than stay in the house. So it can only... And the more we do, the more in the development side of things, comps, that sort of thing, the better the sport will be.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think definitely the key though is that T-ball, bringing the kids number one from T-ball to 12s in that pitch ball sense, making it as easy, that transition period as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So I don't know if everyone's aware, but we don't have any walks at our association and at under 12s level. So if they do get 4 balls, they can get struck out. But if they do get 4 balls from a pitcher, the coach comes on and they get 3 pitches to be able to hit.
Yeah.
That saves embarrassment from the pitcher pitching and not being any good. They want to give it a go.
Yeah.
Saves parents getting frustrated with watching a game full of walks in and out.
Yeah.
5 across the plate, so you've got fast change over, getting 2, 3 or 4 innings in a 1 hour and 15-minute game.
Yeah. And the kids are learning to hit too.
And the kids are learning to hit, right, because they're getting more opportunity to hit.
Yeah.
So rather than, you telling the kid in the batter's box, just swing at anything because it's close, the coach should be able to give them something that they can hit, right? And they're out training and doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one initiative that we're trying, we have done now, and I think that rule will stay for a while.
Yeah, good. As long as, like you say, the coaches don't make it like win at all cost type thing. It's more the development of the kids. Like, who cares you win or lose? You get 50 to 28, doesn't matter, whatever. As long as the coaches realise that you're developing the kids. And I think that's the main thing.
You hit the nail on the head for me. I look at my club perspective as development only. I don't look at it like I want to go out there and win everything. Yeah. When I wear this coloured shirt, when I'm playing on the diamond outside, totally different story, right? Yeah. And that's the way the game should be played, in my opinion. Like, obviously within the spirit of the game, but those kids that are in that representative side, they're there to want to play to win and want success, right? Exactly. And they want to go to the next level, and they want to play for New South Wales, and they want to play for Australia. But those kids that are just down there on a Saturday that come to training for an hour and want to turn up and play for an hour, they all deserve the same opportunity to be able to play. But if you have those breakaway things where there's these development league things, those kids that are elite players don't necessarily have to pitch and catch and do all those things on a Saturday. Yeah. They can go and play in these other things, whether it's a Saturday afternoon or it's a Sunday, or it might be once a month or whatever it might be, where they get to go and display their craft. Yeah,
and flick them around the diamond as well, like you say, maybe make it in the sense that you can't play the same position more than 2 innings of the game or something like that. So you might have two innings of shortstop and a couple of innings at centre field and the right field. That way, everyone's getting a good flow around. Like you say, it's not about the winning; it's about developing and see where they,
Yeah, I was just going to say something to pick. Because as a young kid, if you want to be a pitcher or a catcher, normally you want to kind of develop that for a long period of time, especially into your 14, 16 kind of age group. Yeah. But I think it's also something where kids are not necessarily knowing of what position they want to be and want to really advance in.
Yep.
So opening up opportunity for kids to kind of spread across multiple allows them to see that all at once and not just be like, okay, cool, well, I'm a 10-year-old, I've been told I'm going to be a pitcher. Yeah. That's all I want to focus on.
Yeah, I'm stereotyped.
Yeah, exactly. So, providing opportunity, right, is definitely going to be something that grows the game, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, I totally agree there. I was only talking to Tunner the other night at training actually, and he said, I'm sick of pitching, I'm sick of being classed as a pitcher, I want to play shortstop. And he's 35 years old. But you know what I mean? Like, it just gives an opportunity, And, obviously, we played mixed up at Cumberland last year, and it was fun we just rotated around, had it was a ball, it was. And it just gives players opportunities as well. But we had a range, I'm 53 and we had 16-year-olds in the side. Just a mixed development type thing. It's good fun. You move around and then, hey, some of the kids go, I'm all right at right field, I'm all right at left field. Or, I can pitch a bit, I might have a go at this, where they're not afraid to. If they have sort of a go at it, in a sense, that it works out right,
I also think at association level, we need to just go one step further on that. Look at taking the younger kids that are showing that initiative and whatever into those representative teams and understanding that you don't want to demoralise a kid by sitting them on the bench the whole weekend or whatever happens, right? But let's use 23s for example. If you've got an under 23s team, there's nothing from 23s to 18s. Sometimes associations have 18s, they've got 16s. Yep. If a kid's 16 years old and shows maturity to be in that 23 side amongst the likes of your Brad Kilpatricks and your Josh Wickens and all these guys, go and let them sit there and see what it's like to be in that dugout and see how those guys react at that level rather than an open men's level, because when you've got those older guys that are there, sometimes those attitudes change a little bit differently.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So, and like you say, and they come to training as well, and as long as they know from the start, hey, look, you're 16, you're going to be here for 7 years, you might get a game or two here or there at that state chance, but here to learn, develop yourself through, learn from the older guys. A lot of guys in those 23 sides have played for New South Wales at a 16s, 17s, 18s, 19s level anyway. So that opportunities to learn. And a lot of those 23 coaches as well are generally state coaches in a sense, or high level coaches. So there's plenty of opportunities to learn.
Can I ask them, because I think these days kids feel they have to be a part of something and to do it in order to learn. I know I speak for myself, and you guys can probably attest to this as well. So when I was younger, I would watch my parents play. I would watch all the older ones play and be able to learn just while sitting there watching.
Yep.
And that's how I grew to love what I want to do, or become a pitcher, or whatever I wanted to do back then, by just learning and being able to sit there and watch. Now, obviously, like I said, they feel like they have to be on the diamond to learn what they have to learn. How do you scale that back to get them to say, hey, I'm here to watch these older players, for example, the 16-year-old who's going to play 23s,
Yep.
and say, hey, this is your role within the team this weekend.
Yep.
Take as much as you can out of this experience.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
Obviously, if you've got plenty of coaches in your side, they can help, like, sit with that person or that kid and mentor them. Or even an older player, for instance. You might have, say, you've got 3 pitchers in your 23 staff, for instance, which you generally sort of have. It might be one of them's game off, and him or her sitting with that 16-year-old and running a few things. Oh, did you notice that? Did you notice this? Did you notice how the field shift? Or did you notice the catcher, sets up a little bit on the outside if you notice the pick off at 2, whatever like that. Just those little tiny things that you could have someone mentoring 16s, whether like you say, whether it's a coach or whether it's another player in the team,
Education and inclusion. That's the key, right? So if I use the winter competition that we just held recently as an example, we specifically teed up a 14-year-old 15-year-old catcher with a 35-year-old catcher, and the idea of taking those 2 females into that team was you are going to sit next to that woman and you are going to learn, and you're going to grab that girl by the hand and say, hey, this is why I called that pitch, etc., etc. And you'll get your shot and you'll get your chance to go in there. Yeah. And my example that I'm bringing up, if what I see at the moment at training is anything to go by in the change of attitude from the player from before to post, chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
That matures those players at that level.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's the way to do it. It's 100%, and they learn from the better players, and they learn from people who they look up to as well. So it definitely worked for me.
Yeah, and even down to the TBall level, I think I had a 5-year-old kid or a 6-year-old kid in my under-10 state championships. I didn't play a heap of game time, but just loved every moment that he got, and he picked up the bats and did this and did that, and he was just.
Love being involved.
We were away for the weekend. It was all fun.
Yeah. The thing that under 10s showed me is that you can have fun no matter how old you are.
Yeah.
And a tournament like the under 10s, because my daughter's team, they had 2 5-year-olds in the team, and they were fully active in that team, and the way they judged their weekend was how happy their experience was, not so much how where they came,
how many home runs they hit, doesn't matter.
My daughter went home happy as a first-time T-baller in that year because she had a great experience. And I think that's probably one thing that we miss at association level sometimes, is building that experience for those players to walk away happy and not so much responding to the result of the game.
Making it fun.
Yeah, exactly. Making it fun. So I know that's definitely something that we always aspire to do.
It's something as coaches we need to remember as well, and it's something that we need to focus on at association level with development and coaching. Is number one, get the coaches to start from the ground up in the grassroots up and go through that process of getting coaching. Don't get someone there, foundation level coach, and let them go onto a 16s team. Get them to go back and do the little babies, right? Work there, then come up through the 10s, then go to the 12s, and then just experience that whole process. So you get that mental maturity of how a child works all the way through. Because one thing I learned going back to doing 10s, I haven't coached 10s for a long time. Going back and doing that state championship side was, I did not fathom the attention span that was required for a child, or the one-on-one time that you would need to necessarily fine-tune the throwing and catching technique, right? So we had to scale it back a bit and go, okay, we need to really break up training. We need to really focus on this and that. But then at the same time, not taking away from those more experienced and older kids as well, and giving them the opportunity. So in my coaching staff, we split up and did those types of things and went, okay, Dan, you go do that. Natalie, you go do that. Connor, you go do that. And did that week in, week out. And then when we went there, Yeah, you're always gonna have your stronger older kids, but that are better. But those with, I hate using the word weaker kids, but the lesser experienced kids, less skilled kids, get brought up to that level where they are supporting that core out team. But they've still got another 1 or 2 years to go in that side, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and like you say, and there might be the development side of things before they're in that actual side, you know, what I mean, coming through. And I think you did right there in what you're saying. I mean, that's how basically I started with the coaching side of things. Good mate of mine, Dave Garland out at Penrith, said to me, "Oh, can you come and help with the pitches at under 13s development?" It wasn't even the 13s state champ side, it was development. So yeah, no, right, I'll give it a go. And sort of that's where I progressed through. Like you see, you work with the 12, 11-year-olds. And I've followed that side basically all the way through now through to men's, in a sense, you know, the last 10, 12 years. So to me, I've developed as a coach as well, because you learn, you know, the skill level of that 12s, 13s, you know, age group through to the men's. And I think you learn to adapt and you learn to be patient, resilient. Where if you've got someone who's come straight in at a men's level, I want you to coach 12s, never coached 12s before, you expect a lot more than what's going to happen, because you know, the skill level's not quite there, you know what I mean? So, in a sense, that helped me coming from under 13s through to the men's.
We're talking all things club now, and both of you have been in the game for a long time, and we really want to hone in what you guys have seen from your experiences in sport, just in general, in terms of, you know, club best practice. You know, how do you develop young kids, and how do you get them going from, you know, say, for example, under 10s through to under 16s and beyond? So, from your experiences, Pete, what you've seen around the sport, how do we make clubs better in terms of development? Yeah,
I think, again, going back to like mid to late, 80s, 90s type thing, there was a lot of coaches out there coaching, a lot of high-level coaches coaching at clubland. I think more so now, there's not as many coaches, high school level coaches coaching at clubland. And I think that's the biggest issue we've got, because when they're coming through the club system, the basic skills are missing. You know, the technique of throwing properly, technique of swinging a bat properly, the technique of even warming up and getting ready for a game. It's not, in my opinion, not where it should be. And I think we're going to get more and more of these either mum and dad coaches level to the point and understand the basic skills of the game, or we get more of these, level 3 foundation or the old level 4 back coaching at clubland as well. And I think that'll help. And right at the start, like you say, TBall, 10s, 12s, 14s, this is where they will learn the most and carry through. Bad habits start at 10s, 12s, 14s, and once you have that bad habit, it'll progress through them. They're really hard to break out. So by the time you get to 16s and 18s, then you've got mum and dad saying, "Oh, look, my kid's just about there. Can you help me out?" And you're trying to break that bad habit, and it's hard to break. So, I think if we can get more of these, the high-level skill coaches coaching at clubland, they don't have to coach all day. Coach one team. You know what I mean? Like, and what I think would be a good idea too is the fact, like say for instance, being a level 4 coach, I'll go and coach young tours or Mounties at the Southern Districts competition. Have 2 learning coaches with us, as assistant coaches. That way I can pass on to them. And then bang, it sort of works through that way. And we're pretty fortunate in our Southern District. We've got quite a few level 4 coaches there now. So that's what we want to do going forward. Not just at the clubland, but also during battery clinics and the little academy we're going to set up as well. So same sort of principle. Not just about the players, but about the coaches too. We want to bring the coaches, coach the coaches type thing. I know the. Do you think it's important? Sorry to interrupt you there. But, relationship building with those younger kids. So, for example, you're a performance coach. And I know that knowledge is one thing, and you want to be able to share that. But knowing that an under 10 kid, say for example, is looking at a coach who coaches all the rep teams within the association, and doesn't see you as that coach up there, but sees you as Pete, the coach, and not so Pete, the coach of the Opens, or Pete, the coach of the under 23s, and like with yourself, Dan. Like, how important is relationship building, especially at that younger age? 100% definitely, because you've got to, I remember, growing up as well, like, when you got coaches, you don't want to be, in order of them, or you don't want to be like afraid of them type thing. You just want to have that, easy approach with them. And I think that's, to me, I think I'm pretty easy approachable. Not very often I crack them. And kids that I've coached, they might be once in a tournament, once in a blue moon. It's not very often. I'm pretty laid back when it comes to coaching. I know that some coaching styles are pretty full on. Even at New South Wales level, I'm pretty laid back as well. So, and that's probably my approach to getting on with people and make sure my message get across. I feel I can get my message across by being laid back like I am, rather than being that school teacherish type, whip the stick, whip handle type thing. So, and if you start at the lower level, the 10s and 12s, and they get familiar with you and they know that, that's easier transitioning through.
Yeah, I agree.
In terms of initiatives, and keeping the theme of those younger age groups, what are you doing at club level with Saints, I believe?
Yeah, so I'm involved with St Christopher's club, and last year and the season before, we train all our age groups together, take our babies out of it, but pretty much from our under 10s up to our under 16s, we'll train on the same night, on the same diamond, same fields, and we run multiple stations around to do that type of thing. That way, a kid that's 8 or 9 or 10 years old can look at the kid that's 15 or 16 years old and go, I can be like that. Or we often see that 15-year-old kid go back and help that under 10 kid.
Yeah.
No, you throw like this, or you catch like this, or I'll throw with you and we'll catch like that.
And you probably got some state kids there as well.
Exactly right.
Like you got Brad at your club as well, so
Correct.
that probably helps. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you get that flow-on effect happening where you get some of those older kids will go back and coach the babies teams. And there's nothing better than that, because that kid's been shown everything from that age group, like what you're saying, been shown all the way through to a New South Wales state level, for example. And then it's now their turn to go back and give back.
Yep.
And I'm from my club perspective, I'm very strong on that, and go, I want my girls, for example, like they've had all these elite coaches showing them what to do and all that, go back and help out at the baby level. Because if you get a parent that comes in with a 6 or a 7-year-old kid, they don't know and it's their first time, they don't know what they're doing. And then sometimes like, I'll put my hand up and I'll coordinate the team and do whatever. Yeah. But if we're teaching them wrong from there, what you're saying is right, those bad habits kick in. And we get a lot of kids that come from clubs into the rep team, and we're spending the first 4 weeks trying to teach them how to throw and catch a ball properly. Yeah. And it's very frustrating. Well, you shouldn't have to. You should get those kids at that level who are, and you're fine tuning them, ready to go. You should be doing game play from the get go.
Yeah.
In whatever your lead up is, 12 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever your lead up is into that representative thing. But I see, I'm involved at an older level with United in the Masters competition. I see they do battery development, their own club development, battery development clinics where they develop their kids that want to pitch.
Yeah.
I think that's really good if you can do those types of things from a club level as well.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think some of those more senior coaches should come back and mentor those mums and dads coaches, because it's all good and well to say, they should all have level 3 foundation coach, whatever it might be, and do the paperwork, but you can't tell them anything unless they're being shown that from the likes of yourself or me or those more senior level coaches, right? So I think definitely that's the way forward for clubs to be able to work on those things. I think I would like to see a lot more people put their hands up to coach teams and be involved a lot more with teams, even just shadow a team for 12 months around a coach that's doing something like that, and ask questions, walk around with a notebook in their hand, take down things on throwing techniques and things, ask questions.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than a player moving on from up into another age group, and they're losing that parent because it's going with their child or whatever, and then you're asking them to coach a team and they're like, I don't really want to do it, my kid's not involved. But
which happens a lot.
Yeah,
it does happen a lot. Yeah, the kid goes through, like you say, the parent goes through, and you just lose that. And next thing you know, the next group of kids come through don't have that same type of coaching. And
it'd be an absolute luxury to have at a club level if you could have a ballot. Like you go, oh God, I got too many coaches to spread around into my teams, right? Yeah, but you sometimes don't. You got multiple people coaching multiple teams.
Yeah. What you said's a good idea though. I've never thought of that before, to be honest. Have all the age groups at one club on one night. I think that's a great idea, because, like you say, you can split them all up. 2 14s, 2 16s, 2 18s, 2 23s over this one, and then same sort of over here. You've got 4 different groups, and they all mingle together, and they all learn each other. And when they transition, say for instance from 16s to 18s, or say 16s to 23s, or youth to seniors, whatever, then they know the kid already.
Yep.
Or they know the person already. That way, it's a lot better than rather than, I'm the new person here, I don't know who's who. So.
And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a senior coach, someone who's been there for a while, that's a bit more senior, so they can actually walk around on that night rather than being, I'm coaching this bunch of 12 kids or 10 kids or whatever. They can walk around and say, this is how you would do that drill. Explain the drill. Do those types of things.
Yeah.
And your session might go for 2 hours, right? Sometimes the under 10 kids can't last that long, so you start them off at that 6 o'clock time slot, whatever you do.
Yeah.
7 o'clock they go, and then you're focusing more on those senior drills, or you're making those a bit more harder as you move along.
Yeah, and to be honest, I know a lot of the older boys. Some of the older boys from the 18s, New South Wales side last year, they love coaching the kids.
Yeah.
They love being involved and teaching the kids, and I know some of the senior players as well, like in the men's team as well, they like doing as well. So I think it's a great idea, to be honest. I think every association should jump on the back of that and give it a go at least.
Yeah, I had Clay Kilpatrick sit next to us, myself and his brother, in the under-14s last year, and I was just impressed by some of the comments that came out of his mouth on the actual gameplay. Like, someone else seeing it from his eyes at that level, I don't see that.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to admit that. And I was happy to go, well, and he goes, no, this is what's happening in this game. This is what's exactly about to happen. And he goes, we need to do this, this, and this. And he's telling his brother, who's played for Australia and been halfway around the world playing, this is what we need to do. And he's telling me, and I'm his 40-year-old man, going, shut the hell up and sit there and go get me a drink. But no, it's different perspectives. And having that in coaching groups is key, even down to a club level. Like, have that mum that's there that wants to organise the dugout and help out, make sure the kids are drinking all the drinks. And that coach that is not quite coming out of their shell yet, but wants to assist and coach and do that. And then that strong personality coach, but is willing to incorporate everyone together as a unit. Right?
Yeah.
And that's how I approached my under-10s last year when I did the rep side of it. My assistant coach looked at the team totally different to what I looked at it.
Yeah.
I looked at it from a high level, total concept overall. She picked everyone apart and went, okay, we need to do this and this and this, and got down into the mental side of the game, right? And then I had the junior guy who was just like the kids looked up to, and they all wanted to be like him. So it's you really need to pick that, and I think that needs to start at a club level. Like I said, I came out of a meeting last weekend where we did that this year. We kind of put coaches with different coaches rather than just going, oh yeah, they want to do that, let's let them do that side, and then putting two people together, and that can cause a clash as well sometimes. So you've got to really think about that, and who's going to develop the kids. You want the right coaches going with the right kids at the right age group, because are they going to give them the time that they deserve, right? And that's a big one.
100%. And what's a good thing too, like if you've got not just the boys but the girls and boys together, in the coaching side of things, as you probably know, like, I coach a men's team completely different than I coach a women's team in a sense, because men's all power, wrath of God, smack, well, the women's is more technique, the bunt game, the short game, that type of thing. So that's why I quite enjoy coaching the women, because I get both sides of that view. And that's what I think would be good in that respect. If you've got the guys and the girls together, and the guys coaches and women's and men's coaches together as well, they can sort of learn back off each other, like you can introduce some of the men's techniques in the women's game and vice versa. Because I personally think in the women's game, the batting power is not quite there, but the men's game, the short game is not quite there. So if you sort of learn them off each other, it's only going forward as well.
I guess the key thing here, though, is that you've got to be willing to openly share ideas and experience. And that can happen at all levels, from the top right down to the bottom, or vice versa, So I definitely encourage associations to take on board what's happening here and what's being said, but to elaborate more in terms of, because you've obviously done it, did you notice the kids exiting training a lot happier, knowing that they've probably learnt more?
100%. And you find that you get a lot more kids turn up to training, right? Because they're like, oh, I want to go there because there's a big group happening, and it just gives a different buzz to the night, right? Because you've got 50, 60 kids out there running around at all different age groups and all different skill levels, doing different things, and balls are getting whacked there, and someone else is hitting balls off a tee into a fence here, or whatever's happening. And it's just like, ooh, I want to step out there and be a part of that. I used to leave those training sessions, and we'd have sometimes 8, 9 coaches out there, anyone. It also means that if a coach isn't available due to work, we'll have commitments, right? Doesn't mean that the team suffers. Someone else picks up that slack at a club level, right? And then I'd leave that, and I'd be on such a high, like I'd just be buzzing. Like I'm always buzzing when I leave a softball field, but I'm just on like such a.
I'm usually tired.
It just really, for me, it's like I feed off other coaches' energy, and I feed off the kids' energies, and if the kids are there and they really are enjoying it, then the coach enjoys it, I think, and it just creates that overall atmosphere of...
Yeah, and that's why you coach.
Exactly right.
The enjoyment you get out of it. So seeing the kids succeed and seeing the development, you know what I mean? I'm not big on winning tournaments or winning club or winning... I'm big on developing the kids. As long as the kids come through, like, we've quite a few kids now, like we said before, from the under-13 development side back 10 years ago, they now play for the junior Steelers. And to me, that's an accomplishment thing. Hey, I helped in that. You know what I mean?
One of the best competitions that I enjoy coaching and going to is the Canberra Australia Day competition, where I've taken TBall teams down there before. There's nothing better than having 5-year-old kids with 10-year-old kids down there staying in hotel rooms together. It's hilarious. But the whole concept of trying to keep those kids focused for a 3-day tournament in 40-degree temperature sometimes tests you as a coach, but also there's all different, it's club-based, so there's all different levels of teams that you come up against. And, you come up against a team from Orange, for example, and they can just be absolute gangbusters, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's like, what are you doing? And you get to learn what someone else is doing out there from their coaching side of things. And then it's those types of things, if we look at doing club, if I call it development, even T-ball gala days at a club level rather than association gala days. And then you can gauge the divisions once they start. Day one, you play off against everybody or whatever happens, and you split them into pools. And then day two, they play in pool A, pool B, and pool C, for example. It might be, you got really 5 strong teams, 5 next teams, and then that way. And then the next time round, if someone does it again, those club sides are ranked for a certain thing, and it could be run in a different format, different set of rules. Even I don't know what you could play with at the T-ball level.
There's options
I
there.
think, like for example, I know that earlier this year we released what Blueblaze is going to be from now on, and that for us is going to be a heavily club-based kind of product.
Yep.
Where we're promoting clubs being able to enter these types of tournaments within their local area. It'll run secondary to the Australia Day tournament that Canberra hold, but it's providing extra opportunity for coaches to come out and not just have during your summer season you turn up for your game, then you're done.
Yep.
And then it's creating an opportunity throughout that year for teams to visit pretty much the home of softball in New South Wales, and say I've played on that ground, because I think ultimately kids, knowing that the 2000 Olympics was here, for example, they want to come to these diamonds and say I've played there.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm not taking anything away from the local ground.
Yeah,
I
look,
think that's something.
I think you hit nail on the head there too, mate. Like for me, I remember playing football when I was real young, St Christopher's actually, and we used to love playing grand final at Belmore. We used to love every grand finals at Belmore. I can't see why you couldn't do the same thing with the softball side of thing, where say for instance, Southern Districts play all your comps all the way up to the grand final. When grand final day's on, all the grand finals are here. Then you've got D-grade women's have never played here before, probably come and watch the kids or grandparents play, come and play on the main diamond. And
picture this. You've got the first and second place at Georges River, first and second place at districts, under 14s, right? Under 12s, whatever you want to make it. Sutherland, first and second place. MacArthur, first and second place. They come out here for a day or a weekend and play off against each other to get to have a super series, if you like, and the top 2 teams get to play. But you let them play, those kids. Some of those kids that are at a club level will never, ever, ever get the opportunity to play on that diamond, right?
Exactly.
Or ever get the chance to play out on any diamond out here and feel the buzz that we will feel on a state championship, right?
Exactly.
And you imagine that kid, that might get 1 or 2 hits in a whole season, gets that opportunity because of that club. They might be in those top 2. Maybe it's the top 3 teams. I don't know. It's something that you could definitely.
I know that's 100% right there. I know my son Jack, when we played out at Penrith there, I think he was only under 14s or under 15s, I think, and it got washed out. They couldn't play there because it got rained out, so they come and played it here in the grand final the week later, and he loved it. He's never played any since, but he loved it. It's just. It'd be a big buzz for, like you say, for those kids. They'll never have the opportunity to play here to have a go.
Yeah, and visually it'd be pretty impressive too, knowing that the diamonds are all full. We've given opportunity across not only the southwestern region, but every region within our state to visit these grounds and not only have it played at a state championships.
Yeah.
Because that's not obviously guaranteed.
Yep.
I think I only made my first rep team 2 years ago. I've been here for a lot longer than that, and playing on that diamond means more than the actual state championship in a sense.
And it might be sense too, like you might have the kids that have never been here before play here, and mum and dad come and play here. Next time they hear it's a state championships on or a nationals on, those facilities are pretty good. I'll go and have a watch. They probably think they're just going to a local park, no seating, that sort of thing. So it just opens up, and again will bring more people in.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's talk about initiatives then. So something you mentioned earlier was that districts are looking at setting up some battery programs, potential academy being drawn up for Southern District. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. That we had planned to start that this year during the winter time. Unfortunately, COVID hit. So our plan is to start it, after Christmas this year. I guess once all the state champs and all New South Wales commitments are out of the way. We want to start a battery clinic probably for under 18s down, focusing more on, like you said before, the transitions from 10s to 12s, trying to get those young ones taught the techniques right from the start. Probably have 2 separate sessions, so one for the 10s, 12s, 14s, and then one for the 16s, 18s, and 23s if they want to be there type thing. We're planning to do that like once a week, and then obviously maybe an academy on top of that as well for the Southern District's kids. Anyone that's it'll be like a selection type thing. It won't be like anyone can come. It's more a selection process for the better skilled kids to try and transition through. The lesser skilled kids we want to get taught at the club level first. That's the plan there, and then bang, go through the academy type thing there. Again, probably the academy more like I'm looking at probably more like the under 16s level. I think once you pass the 16s, you sort of, I think that's what's happening here in New South Wales too with the academy side of things too. Once you get to 16s, technically you make a 16s New South Wales team, and then you're in the system type thing.
So building on a pathway essentially.
Yeah, that's the plan. What we want to do there. So hopefully we'll get it running after Christmas. That's the plan anyway.
In terms of Ritho, is there any initiatives that you're looking to?
We're looking in the Christmas holidays to launch a similar. We're going to do probably a 3-week program where we'll go, and it's probably a bit short, but hopefully it will flow on post that, where the likes of God Lover, the Olympian Suzanne Fairhurst, put her hand up to run some clinics for pitching, for battery. So do say Tuesday we're going to do battery, and then Thursday will be all other skills, hitting and fielding, etc., base running. So hopefully we'd be able to. That's from levels from same under 10s up to probably under 16 level. Anyone who wants to learn. Yeah. And I think that if you can run something like that where you run it for 2 or 3 hours during the day in school holidays, parents are working, kids don't necessarily have much to do. They could take them down there, drop them off, leave them for a few hours, and come back and grab them. They can learn a little bit as they go along. We're looking to do something like that. We were running battery clinics on a Monday night for all levels and all ages, and what we did was we'd split them up based on the way we thought that they were progressing. So we'd have the more advanced ones, with someone, and the least the beginners with another one. Yeah. We had sometimes up to 20 kids down there.
Yeah, it's good.
Catches is something that we have highlighted that we need to try and work with as well. And get some development happening there.
Yeah.
I think that if you don't try and focus on and put some effort into those types of roles, I know from experience, my son started pitching when he was 10 years old or something, and still works over 2-3 times a week. It's something that just doesn't happen.
No.
People need to realise that at times.
And I think that's half the trouble too. I think a lot of these kids expect it to happen overnight.
Yeah.
I want to throw a rise ball. It takes a good 2 years to learn that properly. You know what I mean? You don't get it in a week or two. You've got to work and work and work and work.
2 years. I'm still trying to learn.
But you know what I mean?
Trying to hit one.
You've got to, it takes time. And I think a lot of some of the kids today don't want to spend that time and put that time in. You know what I mean? They expect it, bang, be straight away. I'll go to a program, I'll go to a training session, or I'll go to a development league, and I'm going to be throw away the best batter in the country. It takes time.
But I think if you scale that back to a club level and go back a step of what we do, and I'm not trying to say that we're better than anyone else, but that whole giving everyone a go on a Saturday, trying to find if there's a diamond in the rough that's there, having a go. That's not embarrassed to have a go because the coach is going to pitch them, 3 balls at the end of the day if they walk someone and the game keeps flowing. If you can do that at that level of under 12s when they're coming out at under 10s, you'll find someone and you'll go up and speak to them and go, hey, I can see something there. Like, do you want to come down and we'll do some extra work? And we've done that over the last couple of years, and I think that's worked for us.
Yeah. And you get some late bloomers as well. Like
100%.
Harry Peters, for instance, was a third baser coming through, and then all of a sudden, it's pitched for the Steelers.
Yeah, Brad started pitching when he was 14.
Yeah, exactly, dead right. That's where it, some people don't get it straight away, and they might get it later on. And like you said too, even outfielders as well. Like he's played shortstop all his life, and all of a sudden gets to run the outfield. Wow, what an arm! Covers ground.
Yeah.
Bang, next thing you know, he's playing for New South Wales, Australia, as an outfielder. So that can happen.
Yeah, good. All right, so let's look at the future, and we're talking club level first.
Yep.
So both of you have your own interest in clubs. Pete, what is the best case scenario for you for club softball moving forward?
Oh, look, for me, obviously I'm involved with the Mountie system at Southern Districts, and whether it's Mounties or whether it's Wildcats or whether it's Lansville Saints, it doesn't really matter in a sense. But I like to think that we get more high level coaches coaching at Clubland, passing on knowledge, like we said before, to the lower level coaches, bring them up to speed so they'll get their foundation coach, learn the skills properly, and then develop the kids with those skills. The more skilled kids we've got coming through, the better the comps will be. The better the comps will be, the better associations will be, vice versa, the better New South Wales will be in the long run. And Australia in the long run, in a sense.
And then moving to association level?
Yeah, pretty much the same there too. I think I know I've started there. Obviously, Southern Districts started coaching on the women's side of things more. Obviously, I'm the men's coach for New South Wales, but I quite enjoy coaching the women. I've had the 18s women's and now I've got the open women's as well at the moment. I'm helping them and developing those coaches. It's quite good to have new coaches on board. They've just got foundation coaching, levels, and helping them, teaching them the skills and teach what we, like you said before, the little things, doesn't take much.
Yep.
Like we had training the other night where, first base is throwing this side diamond. Oh, why would you do that? Well, you don't take the runner out. It's just something simple, but not, I didn't think of that. Yeah, well, don't throw it. Yeah, little tiny things you don't think of. And that's where these coaches just pick up these little things here and there. It's easy it's not easy, I was saying, but to get your foundation coach, you do the paperwork. Hey, tick all the boxes, fine, but you learn on the diamond and you learn that training, and that's the biggest part. So I think if we can get more of these, level 4 coaches, level 5 coaches coaching association rep teams, and bring a few of these club coaches involved, in a sense, like you say, with it as well, it's going to be good for the future. And that way, like you say, you haven't got the same coach coaching 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s, 20s.
The system grows.
Yeah, the system grows in a sense, and then 10 years' time, hopefully, I can coach one team instead of 6. But we're heading down that path at some stage. That's the plan, and hopefully, it's every association, if they jump on that same boat, and then, hey, look, next time you go for a New South Wales role, you're up against 20 people. To me, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
The sport's only going to grow.
100%. And going back to Clubland,
mine for Clubland is babies. If you don't have the little ones, you don't have older ones.
Yep.
And I think we've really lost the focus as an entirety across the board on that. You should have 8-10 teams at under 8s, because you're going to lose some of those kids that don't want to play after their first year. It happens.
Yep.
If you don't have that, if you've got 2 teams and you lose 50% of that, you've got 1 team and you've got nothing. And that will flow on through the clubs as they go, because if you can have two little teams per club, if you've got 4 clubs or 5 clubs, if you've got 2 little teams, then you'll definitely have a 1. 100% you're going to have a 1 under 10s team, and you're going to have at least 1, maybe 2 under 12s teams. So I think that's key from club, and I agree with you. Coaching development's key as well. It is a little bit. I find it a little bit more harder at Clubland, but I think if you get some of the more experienced coaches there helping out on a whole and maybe trying the way we did things, I've definitely had more interest this year at club of more people wanting to be involved in coaches since we started that kind of collective coaching thing. Yeah. Maybe because they want to be involved, they feel the buzz. I don't know. Yeah. But that's a good thing.
It's a shame you can't bring like you said before with the little ones, for instance. You can't bring like a school team in. Yeah, or you might be able to go to the Pinning Point Public School. I just picked that because that's where I went. But can you bring a team in on a Saturday? They might love the sport, and hey, they might jump on board with it, and then jump into St Christopher's or jump into an Illawong or whatever, and that could be a way to go as well. I know schools is obviously we all played it at school. I mean, I did when I was at school, but it was more just a fun thing rather than a comp thing. If we can get more into that and invite the schools maybe involved in as well, that could be a way to go. I know it's hard because the kids are at school all week and don't want to play Saturday mornings in a sense, but they could, it could be a way to go. Yeah,
and I think at association level, my key focus at the moment from our association for development perspective is players being given that opportunity to play. So highlighting those ones that deserve that opportunity in the pathway to go in with a bit of older teams and sit on those benches and learn from those players. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, I want to be able to field a side moving forward for my under 16s now, because we've been able to bolster that back up again in 18s and 23s and everything as we go along. Not having these where I can't have a representative team there.
Yeah.
And that boils down to giving them a good overall experience at that rep level, so they want to come back and keep playing reps.
Yeah.
And also encouraging the coaches that are less experienced at a rep level to take those under 10s teams, and don't be scared of failing at that level. You know, like you don't have to go there and be successful. And coaches like myself, taking less experienced coaches with you, don't take the person that you've coached with your whole time along in those really junior teams. Take some of those younger guys, or some of those less experienced ones that are keen to learn, and develop and mentor them. I mean, I can't thank Troy Latch enough from George River. He's there helping out at the 10s, the 12s, the 14s, and he doesn't necessarily want to be a coach per se. He just wants to mentor and guide and really help out anyone that's willing to ask. And he's been one of my mentors since I've been stepped into the rep arena.
Yeah, and it's not just the softball side of things too. He's pretty good on the strength and conditioning side too.
100%.
You know, he's good at warm up. He's good at like getting the kids, you know, stretching the right way.
And the overall, from a development perspective, I don't think there's anybody out there that's better than teaching the technique side of it. Better from a drill perspective. He'll be like, oh, have you seen this drill, Dan? Like, I'll show you this, and he'll set it up, and I'm like, wow, like something that you just never would have fathomed or seen before. And it's like, so for us, it's having guys like that staying involved, and mentoring all those coaches, and you know, whether you have coaches forums or introducing them to those things. I mean, we're quite fortunate. Troy does the coaching accreditation thing, so he gets to meet those people along the way and knows their strengths and weaknesses, and they might come up and say to me, oh, you know, we need to work on this with this one, or that one with that one. But that boils down to your level 4 coaching stuff side of things, like getting involved. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at from a development perspective, I suppose. And running more clinics, I think, for the reps and specific skill set coaching. So we've lengthened our window, our lead up period. We used to do, I think, 8 or 10 weeks. We're now at 14 weeks because the feedback we're getting from coaches was it's not enough to put the team together, allow for wet weather, all these sorts of things that come into play, and have a successful representative team. If you want to get them all similar, same page, etc. So if you extend that period, it does seem like a long time, but when you're in those realms and you're training once, maybe twice a week, it's not a hell of a lot of sessions, a lot of hours that you put into it.
Like I know the New South Wales level, like, you know, we go for that 12-week period. We always look at that 12-week period. So,
and you've got elite players.
And you've got elite players, correct, yeah. So like you say, when you're trying to skill someone up, you want that bit of time. So
So I think the key focus areas, you know, that we probably would go through here, I mean, sharing experience is definitely one of those. Being open to multiple opportunities, getting out there and assisting your association first and foremost, I think is more important. And obviously being willing to get out there and give it a go, regardless of what it is, whether it be coaching, playing, umpiring, scoring. Just get out there and give it a go.
And I think associations also opening the doors to people if they've got a different competition, like the Friday night competition, right? The Southern Sydney. I'm happy for anybody to come and play in that competition. Any team, any club side, any player, because if you open a door and give that opportunity, you're going to grow. And a perfect example, we had 4 or 5 teams last year. I think I'm going to have probably 8. So this coming season in a crap year. So I think that's key as well. So that's why I've been vocal about that in the president's meeting, as we all know. Like let's think about it. Let's open up the door about it.
And I think the more we can play. I mean, obviously training is important, but I think the more you play on diamond, the better skills you can get as well.
100%.
Because you learn the game. And that on a coaching perspective as well, not just the player perspective.
You know, boys, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of Softball New South Wales for joining us tonight. It's been very intuitive, and I hope you've enjoyed yourselves and sharing your experiences, and I look forward to you guys coming back again.